Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. This is session 357. We got 90 minutes. We're all ready? This is Many Infants on Multiple Thrones, what we do, why we do it, and why we think it matters. So if that's not what you came for, you'll want to find the right room. I want to make sure everybody's cell phones are turned off. And we ask everybody be attending and respectful. It is the mission of Sunstone to host thoughtful and respectful dialogue. So I wonder what these guys are doing here. But let he who followed every mission rule be the first to rebuke the junior companion. This session is 90 minutes long. We ask everybody to keep it inside of that. We like to ask everybody to take advantage of the Symposium Special, subscribe to Sunstone Magazine, get 7 issues for the price of 6, better deal than tithing, and consider buying the the official Skull Candy headphones. It's like candy for your brain. And remember, your Mormon scholars thrive on your book purchases. The Infants on Thrones, Heather, John, Glenn, Jake, Matt, and Scott, and Tom commemorate their 4th year of podcasting by reflecting on the highs and lows of irreverent ponderizing the philosophies of men mingled with humor. Today we're going to hear from Jake Frost, who is the creator of the Brother Jake web series and a panelist on Infants on Thrones podcast. Tom Perry has been podcasting for over 6 years, and he was one of the founding members of Mormon Expression, and is also one of the founding members of Infants on Thrones. Matt Long is a criminal defense attorney in Mesa, Arizona, previously working for 12 years. He's worked for 12 years as a deputy county attorney, where he primarily prosecuted sex crimes, child crimes, and homicide cases. He continues to present at child crimes conferences throughout the country when he's not otherwise overachieving. John Hamer is pastor of the downtown Toronto congregation. Pastor of the downtown Toronto congregation of the Community of Christ. Canadian and Community of Christ. That's like a perfect conflagration of loving acceptance. He's a past president of the John Whitmer Historical Association, and he's the co-creator of Scattering of the Saints, Schism Within Mormonism. And Scott
rocks a beautiful head of hair.
Must be the weather in Canada.
Says the bald guy.
Scott Rowley. Applause for us. Is a family law attorney from Mesa, Arizona. He is among the principal founders of Any Opposed and Infants on Thrones, and the principal founder of the Mormon Genome Project. Glenn Oslin. Studied Mormon folklore at the Indiana University and came half a dissertation away from finishing a PhD on Mormon humor. But he never really did anything with that, because really, what can you do with a PhD in folklore? Well, tell a story for one. And finally, Heather Craw. Heather is the newest addition to the Infants on Thrones, where she offers a point of view steeped in social psychology, behavior economics, and Russian literature. Здравствуйте. If there's anything beautiful, artistic, poetic, poignant, or architectural, she seeks after these things. Take it away, guys.
Probably going to have to help me on this. Okay. Second. All right, thank you everyone for coming out today. There are a few things right from the start I'd like to know about you. The first one is there anyone in here who does not know who Infants on Thrones are?
Wow.
Okay. If I just want you to know, if you stand up and walk out, it will hurt our feelings a little bit, but we will understand. We had that experience at the Mesa Sunstone. What did we get ourselves into? So we are a podcast. We've been podcasting for 4 years, and we were here last year at Sunstone. We did something called Mo Side Out, which was a parody of the Inside Out movie. We don't have anything quite so structured today, but we do have some fun, interactive plans for all of you. I think for me and for those of us who have been sitting at the booth outside for the last 2 days, what's been really nice and really rewarding is those of you who have come up and talked to us and shared with us how the podcast influences you and impacts you, because it's something that we do really as a hobby for fun. We don't think that much about it afterwards. Somebody, Adam, I don't know if you're in here, was telling us one of his favorite episodes from a couple years ago, and the intro was this, and I had no idea. I couldn't remember anything. But it's great to hear from you guys what the podcast means to you. So we'd like to spend part of the presentation today in our comments and Q&A, not just with you asking questions to us, but sharing those experiences with us and then with our listeners, because we'll be recording this and this will be published as a podcast as well. So we'd really like to have an interactive discussion with you today as much as we possibly can. But we do have some things also interactive planned out to start. So Scott, maybe you can help me figure out how to do this. We did this last year.
So if everyone on your mobile device,
I need to start
you can
recording
scan
too.
that or type in the URL, and that'll load up a page for you so that you can participate with our little presentation that we have going here.
Previous question, are you seriously suggesting that we turn back on the device when we turn on?
Just put it on silent.
Airplane
we are asking you
mode.
to turn it on.
Back on.
And that's down here.
We're rule breakers. We admit it.
And you can leave it on if you have the infants on.
So what we're going to be doing, we'll be asking a few questions at the start just to get to know you as our audience a little bit better, and you'll see the results come up here as you answer the questions on your phone or mobile device if you have one. And then we're going to have 7 questions, because there are 7 of us, and each one of us will answer the question that you see on the screen. But the interactive part comes in where you have to determine whether the answer we're giving you is true or whether it's false. So you'll see that. So you'll be voting whether you think that we're being true with you or false with you, and then we'll have a conversation as a panel about that, and we'll move to the next question. So I'm just waiting for this to pull up. Everybody's on that's going to be on? All right. Come on, ladies.
So once you cast your vote, you should be able to see.
Yeah, it'll move if you guys are voting.
Once you cast your vote, it should say waiting for the next question. So at that point, you come up here.
Now, we've been doing a survey on the website for about probably 2.5, 3 years.
It is true. The future is female.
Yes.
Don't roll your eyes, Tom.
Just leave it in this thing.
From those who fill out our survey, it's usually about 70 to 30% male to female, but we're beating that in the room today, so that is great. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next question. How old are you, or how do you age identify? And please be honest. Great. Yeah. Typos are. Yeah.
Age identify. 19.
Yeah, we should be voting. Are you voting?
I'm going to play along.
There's very little appeal to the youth demographic here. Oh, wait, here.
And whenever we do this question, it's always a sampling problem, because the under 30 crowd, I think, has their device on them all the time, and the over 60 crowd is like, what's a podcast sometimes?
Right.
So
How you identify? Yes. Yeah. And that was for you, Mom.
All right, next.
The age identify part, but no. I teased my mom. Okay, well, let's move on to the next question then. And this one's maybe one of the more fun ones. What kind of a Mormon are you?
Reverse excommunicated.
Oh. That's basically the same as having never been Mormon in the eyes of the Lord. Yeah. Well, but I think that's officially ex-Mormon, John. I've got the atheist question coming up next, so we'll save our debate for that one.
So that's,
Okay.
That's a super majority.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, wow.
We know who we're.
All right, so there we go. And then the fourth question: how long have you been listening to Infants on Thrones? If you've been listening to it.
Wow.
So I didn't see 6% of the hands raised in this room, so some of you are lying.
They're trying to hurt our feelings.
Because I asked if they knew who we were.
Oh, okay. Right.
So they may know who we are, and they just choose to not listen as part of the...
trying to decide if that's better or worse.
It makes a little more sense. Okay, and then the final question. If you could be Donald Trump for a day, which infant would you choose to run your campaign for you? And if that isn't 100% John Hamer, I don't know.
Exactly. I already voted for you, John.
Ooh, Heather.
Heather.
Whoa. There it goes.
The Donald actually is going to be using this information, Heather, so prepare yourself.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, if an adolescent Cheeto calls you on the phone, you'll know why.
Okay. Well, thank you. So that is the first round of questions. So now what we're going to do, we're going to play this true-false game, which is something I think I saw Jimmy Fallon do with letters, and they read it and say, is that the true answer or the false answer? So the first question is going to go to Tom. Are you ready for this, Tom?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, so Tom, so you guys wait until you hear Tom's response, and you're going to have to evaluate whether what Tom is telling you is true or whether it's false. So, Tom, what was your favorite thing?
You're supposed to not vote yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Tom, what was your favorite thing about being Mormon and why?
So I read two answers and then...
No. You read one. You can choose whether you choose whether you read the true one or the false one,
okay.
and they'll vote, and then eventually you'll read the other one, and we'll have a discussion about it.
Being 100% correct and true. I never had to second guess anything. The absolute certainty. That was my favorite thing. Was that true or false?
All right, let's throw it to the panel before Tom reveals whether that's true or false. What do you guys think that have known Tom for as long as you have?
I think Tom always seems like one of those guys that's not really 100% sure about too many things.
He knows very little. Is what
No, he knows lots of things, but he's not overflowing with certitude
But that may be new.
Anymore.
anymore.
I agree with
Yeah.
Scott.
I also vote false.
I voted true.
I think it's true.
You think it's true?
I
What
think
does
it's true.
Jake think?
I put false. I think
Oh.
you like the celestial smile. I think that's what you like. You like that garments? I think that was your thing. You seem like one of those guys.
Yeah.
Right. So do I reveal?
Yeah.
It was true.
All right. And so what was...
I knew because you're man enough to admit that.
It's one of the reasons why life is so difficult now.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that certainty anymore.
Right. So what was your false response that you're going to try to fool people with?
Being able to marry your spouse for eternity, not just for this life.
Yeah.
That was when you could have tricked
Who needs that?
people. I wanted to deceive.
Yeah. Good. All right. So this next question is going to go to Matt Long. What was the craziest experience you had on your mission?
Crazy is I guess that's how you define that. when I was on a mission, I was in the Pacific Islands, and a few months in, a member of the branch that was on the military base, I went. Well, there was a cold, stormy night.
Dark.
No, I was. Let me think. There was a military base nearby our mission. We went from there to another island. A member's family helped us kind of get sent off, and I opened up my bag after we had gotten to this other island. There was a note from one of the what are they? Branch presidency's wives that was confessing her undying love to me. And that she put in there,
Trues.
and I've had a long conversation with my husband who supports this. And that was the craziest thing that ever happened as a missionary at the time, being hit on by one of the branch presidency's wives with the support of wife, singular. Yeah, there were 3 women that were, no. Yeah, it blew me away, and I didn't know how to respond, didn't know how to react, and it was just crazy. Crazy.
But then 3 huge
And
guys
then we had
showed
sex. No, that part's not. That's
Yeah. But what were you going to say, Jake?
Well, I was going to say, and then 3 huge guys showed up to tear up the note for you.
With swords.
With swords, right? Yeah.
That wasn't, Matt, when the branch president then didn't believe that the wife was the one that wrote the letter to you and blamed it on you, and you got thrown into prison. And then the Pharaoh had a dream.
That's right.
And you interpret it.
There it is.
Well done, Glenn.
Okay.
Well done.
All right.
So that was the craziest thing that happened, because it was so. I didn't know how to react or respond to that, and yet I had to interact with these people because I was his own leader, working with him. Made the rest of the time extremely awkward.
I think it's true.
So what does the panel think about that answer?
I think it happened to someone.
I get it. She's saying, well, clearly you weren't. Okay, I'm sorry. I used to have really beautiful blonde hair, 9% body fat, and at one time I was an attractive man.
That's not what I meant.
I'm kidding.
You're attractive in like a mob hitman kind of way. Like really, yeah. Like if you were the last face I ever saw, like I'd be like, well, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
I'm the very last person I saw.
I don't know.
I should have paid them back, but he was a good-looking guy.
I'm told I would do well in the gay community. I don't know if that's true, John, but that's it.
All right. So the audience thinks that it's false.
Yeah. Other than the sex, it's 100% true.
2 for 2 here.
Yeah.
All right. And then what was your false story going to be?
Oh, I didn't. I thought that was kind
You
of
didn't prepare
salacious
one?
enough. I didn't
Okay,
really
all
prepare
right.
a false
The sex
story.
part.
Yeah. Yeah. The false was that it was the stake president that wrote the letter.
Yes, that's right. My mission was so unique. I didn't need to make up a story, Glenn.
All right. Okay. So this next question is going to go to Scott. What is the one podcast topic that you've always wanted to cover but haven't covered?
So if you're a true fan here, you'll know who Krista the Psychic is. Do you guys know Krista the Psychic?
Yeah.
So,
And Krista is here. Krista.
where is Krista?
Krista. No, she's here. Never mind.
Glenn is channeling her.
Yeah. No, she's really not. Okay. False. Everybody vote false.
I was like, I stepped in at this time. No, yeah. No, we had her on early in the program, and I think even now she's still one of the most interesting, bizarre, unique guests that we've ever had on. And it's been 4 years that we've been doing this, and we haven't had her back since. So I think we need to do a VH1 Where Are They Now of Krista the Psychic.
Yeah.
With an audience that's like 100 times what we had the first time around when we did it. So
And
We went from 12 to 24 listeners. So
yeah.
Okay. So this one I didn't have to do in the percentage, but we can still see the total there. Most people don't believe you. What does the panel think? Do you guys believe Scott?
Yeah, I don't believe Scott.
You don't?
I remember him saying that was a waste of time early on. Yeah.
We know Scott too well. I agree with Tom.
I'm 100% certain.
Yeah.
I think there was one panelist who really found that very, very interesting, and that it wasn't Scott.
Yeah. She has agreed to come on and do a Where Are We Now thing, actually. I talked to her recently.
And we should do that episode. It's just not the one I wish that we'd
the correct
always
answer here is false. That's
This is
really not the
false.
burning episode that...
false. But the one that my true answer, the one that I really do want to do, is one that we've been talking about for a while and just haven't gotten to it. Is when people have a change of faith or leave their faith, it's primarily, or maybe not primarily, but in a large part, it's a identity crisis is what they're actually going through. And we, I think, could put together some really interesting material on your personal identity. About, people's, when you leave the church, you want to think that, oh, I'm still the same person. Or other people will say to you, well, you seem like you're a different person now. I don't know who you are. And so there's this real struggle with identity. And, having been going through this for years and feeling like now I'm kind of coming out of it to where it's less relevant to me, I think I've kind of come full circle on that question to being able to say, no, you do change as a person. There are parts of you that are still the same. You're still the same being, but in reality, these beliefs are so deeply ingrained in who you are that when you change them, it's going to change who you are as a person. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. And it's not necessarily the same way that other people will try to brand you or label you from the outside. That's not your correct identity either. And that's something that's difficult to struggle with. So
we've done it.
Yeah, there we go.
All right,
I just said
congratulations.
everything. Yeah, I just explained the whole thing.
Yeah. Great. Okay, the next one goes to Brother Yake. How has the podcast impacted your personal life?
Kind of. I would say the unrelenting and constant sexual harassment that I get from Scott. Ever since he came into my life, it's been just one photo of him doing lunges after another.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I've seen some of those photos.
Start piling it up.
Yeah, right. Well, lunges, duh.
Do I really even have to? Should I even wait on this? That's obviously a lie. That's. What do you guys?
You're saying
actually?
Obviously, but 31% of the people here
Right.
believe.
I don't
what
know.
you're
Maybe
saying.
it's too much. What do you all think?
There was that whole Anthony Weiner style incident between the two of you.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a private message, John. My fingers.
So tell us, has it affected your life at all? If that's false, man, like you say.
Oh yeah, I think the effect that it has had has been just friends from earlier chapters of my life, kind of coming out of the woodwork and contacting me and saying, "Oh, hey, I heard you. Are you this guy?" And it's been like, can I borrow money? Yeah, that's complicated.
Borrow money.
I give them 100% of the proceeds that I get from Infants on Thrones.
Right. We all do.
And that's available to anybody. Email me. But it's been an interesting way to kind of connect with people in earlier chapters of my life now that we're kind of gone through this, like Scott was talking about, identity crisis in some ways. Rekindling those relationships and in some ways kind of being, in a weird way, kind of mentoring some people, I guess, but I don't really know anything, so I don't know why they...
Have all of those old friends that have come out of the woodwork, have those been positive experiences for you where they're on the same page, they've gone through a same type of experience, or have you had people upset with you or angry about either Infants on Thrones or Brother Jake or anything like that?
Overwhelmingly positive. Some have been a little more tense, but most of them have been positive, and a lot of them have been from my hometown. So I grew up in a small town, Show Low, Arizona. I don't know if anyone's heard of Show Low or it's near Snowflake. But a lot of people from that, like family friends from there, have contacted me through it. So it's been it's kind of rekindle a lot of those relationships for me and help me feel kind of reconnected to that chapter of my life. So that's it. Cool.
All right, the next question goes to John. All right, so the question is, what is the most common feedback that you get from listeners, John? And I'll try and get the voting back up, but you can talk about it.
Well, I get an awful lot. Oh, this works? Hello? Okay. I get an awful lot of people who find me on Facebook, and they send me private messages. And, there's all kinds of different questions. And so when I was thinking about this one, I had to kind of do, like an aggregate and what the most common one is. And it's always, what hair product do you use? So I'm surprised by that, but that turned out to be the number one question.
And what's the answer to that? I mean, the hair product.
Yeah, right.
I never know the answer to that question. It's like whatever Mike buys.
It's not flipping back your hair in a waterfall in slow motion.
I wish I was doing anything. I don't know anything about any product. I just am so completely, it's I got my hair cut the other day for the first time in 2 years. And it was because the place I always went to get my hair cut, the hairstylist, I go so infrequently, they went out of business, and I have no one but myself to blame for that, And so then I went to this, and I feel very sorry for them, And I went and found another place, and I walk in, and it turns out they apparently, just by looking around, they only do Asian hair normally, and it's not like you can leave, and you're like, so you'd be like, Anyway, and so then as a result, when I got highlights, it's very different Asian hair than, and so it was super blonde for 2 years, and I was just like, and I got shell shocked. Anyway, I found a place I'm very happy with now. So.
I love that John, that provides the most substance to our podcast, that was his response on our Sunstone presentation.
And if
you no longer raise the credibility with that question.
So just because this isn't the number one impact that comes from it doesn't mean it's a false story. That's what I'm going to say. I don't think it's number one, though.
So something that I think John said one time that really helped me understand him as a person was that he's not a details person, he's a big picture person. So it's not surprising to me that you wouldn't know your type of hair product because you've got all these big visions and other things that are important in your life that are going on.
That's true.
Thank you for bringing that back, Scott. Okay, so just bringing it back to the credibility part.
But the false still won.
Yeah, so that's not really the most common feedback you get.
That is not the most common feedback. No, the most common feedback really is, I've just have had so much struggle in my, in my identity and in leaving my faith, and in just being able to hear your story, to be able to hear alternative path, to be able to hear. How you as a gay man have been able to, respond to Mormon upbringing and things like that, that it was just a big help for my own path, and that that's the most frequent, and it's always, I enjoy it so much every single time, and hearing each individual story and everybody's circumstances is really moving and wonderful, so I very much appreciate that.
And John's got an infectious laugh. I love John's laugh, and I love to laugh, so I love when John gets me giggling.
Okay. So this next question is for me, and it is, what is the most impactful story that you have heard from a listener? So those of you who listen may remember at one point I told a story when I was in high school. I used to do a lot of practical jokes, and I was in high school, and I found a dead mouse outside of a cafeteria, and went in, and I took that dead mouse, I snuck it in, I put it in a bowl, and I put that bowl with the food at the cafeteria, and then they ended up shutting down the line, and I thought it was really funny, but other people didn't think it was funny. So I told that story on a podcast, and somebody told me the other day, I was there. I was behind you in the line, and my friends and I, even to this day, joke about whether or not we should have dead mouse for dessert. And that really blew me away, that something that to me was so silly, just story, would actually connect, and somebody else had an experience out of that. So that's my story. So what do you guys think?
Can I answer?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure?
This to me typifies Glenn.
Uh-huh.
I love this, and Glenn the folklorist. Right?
So what does that mean? I don't know.
It means that it wasn't a mouse. It was a bird.
Okay.
Therefore, it is false. But everything else was true.
It also wasn't my high school, it was BYU, but details. You're right.
Details.
You're right. So that's why. But it really did. Somebody. I don't know if you're here today, but somebody is he here?
Bird guy?
Oh, I thought somebody was pointing and he was
Oh
scratching.
no, yeah. But he was here the other day and came up to the booth and told me that story. Chad is his name. Yeah. So, all right. So it's sort of true. It's good enough for what's that apostle? The Paul H. Dunn. It's good enough for Paul H. Dunn. Yeah.
A little better than Paul H. Dunn. I don't think his stories had that much truth to them.
It wasn't about baseball or beating Nazis, so.
Okay, and let's see. The final question here, if we can pull it up. It was the last time I did this. Okay, go. This is for Heather. And the question, Heather, what has been, and as you pointed out to me earlier, it's actually two questions in one. What has been your best experience working on the podcast, and what has been your worst?
Okay, so you wanted to do best first, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, it's all one.
Oh, okay. So my best experience. So I often feel the spirit when we're having our conversations, and I don't mean that I feel a personage, talking to me, but I mean either a sense of awe or connection or a profound harmony between my actions and my deepest values. The time that I felt the spirit the most was my best experience. And that's when we were doing a recording about anger, and we were talking about Tyler Glenn and Elder Holland. And there was a moment when I expressed how hard I tried to make the church true. And failing that, how hard I tried to make it work. And just asked Elder Holland rhetorically to stop calling me lazy and accusing me of sexual impurity or glibness, and to just stop blaming me that the church wasn't true. And that was a powerful moment for me.
So everyone who voted false is feeling really stupid right now.
Right. And so the worst experience, okay, I have to pick one of these, right?
Yeah.
All right, all the guys know what my worst experience was, but we're not going to bring that one up. My second worst experience was probably the vitriol after the backlash after the episode Heather versus Randy, where I made a case for New Order Mormons staying in the church, and I got a lot of feedback about it, especially people feeling like my presence on the panel made them feel unsafe. For a lot of people, Infants on Thrones, it doesn't try to be fair and balanced. It's, for a lot of people, their temple, the place where they're with the true believers who believe what they believe. And they felt that having someone, I can think of a particular guy that I now am friends with Facebook, but we went back and forth. He felt like I hadn't earned my place on the panel by going through the pain of leaving the religion. And that was a tough experience. So that's also true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I even dare ask what your false answers were? Do you want to share those, or because those were
So
great?
my false one was when Glenn uninvited me to the prom.
Because that was actually her
Which is
best.
the Reddit at AMA, and my false best experience. Well, this is like a close second. The first time I met Glenn and Jake, we didn't actually do a podcast, but we hung out at Jake's house, and I was laughing so hard at these completely inappropriate Hitler jokes. It was a running joke that somehow got better every time that it got reiterated. And I butt dialed my sister and left this message on her voicemail of us just explosively laughing over these Hitler jokes that she later sent me. So, yeah.
Yeah. you know who else had a bad experience like that?
Who?
Hitler.
Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an homage. Okay, so that's, we've got more responses. We could do more of this later if we need to fill up time. But I think what we'd like to do now, we've got about 50 minutes to hear from you. So if you have questions for us as a group or for any of us individually, or if you just want to share some experience that you've had, how the podcast has worked for you in your life or not, that'd be interesting too. The time is now yours. How do they do that in church these days? Like, I'd like to turn the time over.
Yeah, turn the time over. You got it.
Okay, so I'd like to turn the time over to Perry Porter.
My question is, sometimes when you're doing the podcast, and then you'll make a reference to some music video or something, and then it's immediately spliced in, and then as soon as it ends, you guys are all laughing. So do you sometimes pause and say, I'm going to splice this in, or how do you make it seem so seamless, as if that music was playing as you were recording rather than the other way around? Do you ever cheat and turn around and go, okay, I'm going to slice this in, and then come back to it?
Yeah, it's just usually it's just an editing trick where we'll just splice it and then take that clip and insert it right into the middle of our conversation. Sometimes we'll say something like, oh, we need to insert this here, and then that part will cut out.
But usually somebody will butcher a clip or a joke or say, Louis C.K. had this bit where, and they'll just butcher it, but that'll make everybody laugh, and then we'll go get the actual clip, put it in. So the laughing is somebody relaying the clip or talking about a song or something, referencing it, and then we're doing a jag on that, and so it's natural. Then after, we need to find that, let's put it in.
And it's usually Randy who will say, oh, there was the South Park episode.
Right, Randy's got 3 references.
Yeah.
It's
Simpsons.
Louis C.K.,
Yeah.
South Park, and The Simpsons,
Yeah.
I think is.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
and he'll say, oh, we've got to insert this right now, which is my cue to not. So that's how that works. Randy is in Cozumel, Mexico, celebrating his birthday, which was yesterday. So maybe we should all sing happy birthday to Randy.
Happy birthday, Randy.
Yeah.
We Skype him now?
Yeah. I think he's out deep sea fishing right now, so that would be a bit of a challenge, but yeah.
You don't want to say happy birthday.
Yeah.
Let's
Do you want to sing Happy Birthday? Let's do it. All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Randy.
Effing Randy.
Happy birthday to you.
All right.
We love you, Randy.
Yay, Randy.
And Bob's not here because he's got a new baby and lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Wait. I got Randy on the phone. Hey, Randy. Can you hear me? This is John DeLynn.
Who is this?
Say hi to the panel. Hey, everybody, why don't you sing Happy Birthday to Randy one more time? Is that all right? Here you go, everybody. Ready?
What's this guy doing? Who is this guy?
What's going on here? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Randy. Happy birthday to you.
Could you hear that, dude?
Yeah.
Wait, you're on the microphone.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell everybody?
I wish I was there. Sorry that I'm staring at the Caribbean beach or the Caribbean ocean right now.
False.
Everybody loves you. Everybody loves you. See you, brother. Take care. Have fun.
Love you, Randy.
All right. Okay, so someone was coming up for a question, yeah.
So Rob Halford, the lead singer of Judas Priest, somebody needs to get that up on the screen and look at Tom. Anyway, I've always.
Is that a resemblance? I don't know.
I'll take that
He
as a
looks just
compliment.
like him.
Yeah.
So I've always felt very dissatisfied with the John Larson story. I'd like to see if somebody could run through that.
Oh my
With,
gosh.
with what?
That will be the next
Wait,
session
wait, wait,
of
wait. You need to
Sunstone.
stay at the microphone. You can't just say that and sit down. What do you want to know?
Well, I think that this question has been brought up, but there's always little quips. I'd like to hear like how your association started with him.
Okay.
And in this confessionary, if you could explain to us exactly what happened with the split
In this
or whatever.
intimate, private setting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So did you hear?
Closed.
So you heard the episode that we did that was entitled "Our Mormon Expression," but you didn't? Okay, because we talk about it very candidly there, I think, and it's not there were you can say creative differences.
You could do like just a little backstory about the Mormon Expression that you started on that.
Yeah. So Tom, talk about how you started on Mormon Expression.
Tom's side.
Judas Priest.
Judas Priest. Yeah, right. That's pretty good. Well, okay, so there wasn't a lot of Mormon-themed podcasts back then. John Dehlin had shut his down, and so John Larson and I and Garen,
George,
James, Niall, and we all got together and just started talking. And we all wanted to do something. We thought it'd be fun, and
But John had sent out stuff on the internet, like, is anybody interested in coming on? And that's how you guys got
right.
together,
He was
right?
recruiting, yeah. And then we just started, and then I don't know. I mean, if you've listened to it, I don't know what else to say about it.
And after they'd started for 6 months, I started listening to podcasts because I was flying to Japan a lot, and I got tired of listening to music, and I liked listening to talk, but I wanted to hear stuff about Mormons. And, so Mormon Stories was the first thing that I was listening to as I was going back and forth, and I really liked that. And then I found Mormon Expression, and I liked it a little better, just because it was a little more rowdy and, meaty, I felt, to me, and accessible as well. So I reached out to John Larson and said, I've got things to talk about with the Lost Tribes or Mormon humor. Are you interested in anything like that? And he got back to me and said, why don't we do something on Mormon humor? And so that was the first episode that I did, and I just loved it and kept doing things with him, and he was very welcoming and accommodating to that. And so I became, I think there were a few other people that kind of joined, like, what was her name?
Bridget was there.
Bridget, yeah, Bridget.
Jack.
Bridget joined, and Mike was kind of
Mike Tannehill.
was
You guys
kind
know
of
Mike, right? Because he's been
and then
on Infants too.
Yeah, I got involved and just started doing things and did it for maybe 2 years.
Heather. Yeah.
But then there was some creative differences, things that got recorded that I wanted to have published that John didn't want to have published, and I kept pushing, and he kept stop it, and it was just things like that. And then it was actually Krista the psychic that was the nail in the coffin for me. That we did a Mormon Expression Voices interview. I interviewed Krista and her husband for that, but I was interested in getting a reading. I thought if she would do a reading and we could record that and publish that, that would be the equivalent of another Mormon Expression episode that was the gold mine. Is that what it was, Tom? The
Dream Mine.
The Dream Mine, yeah, which I thought was fascinating. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But again, that was part of the creative differences. John didn't want anything to do with that. But I recorded it anyway and had Tom on, who had left Mormon Expression before then, and you have your story on that. But John was really upset that I did that and fired me. But it wasn't the first conflict that we had. It was just he was like, this guy's giving me too much trouble and it's not worth it anymore. So then a few months after that, Tom and I and Scott and Matt and Bob, I think, and Randy said, let's do that. Because we had all worked together on Mormon Expression. We enjoyed doing it and just started doing Infants on Thrones. Added Jake, added John, added Heather because they were awesome and willing to do that. And so that's it. I mean, there's really not anything to the John Larson story other than just people working together that don't always see eye to eye and have a different vision for how things go. And
on a hobby that people aren't really making money. Well, people aren't making money anyway, and so there's.
Yeah, that was part of it. I mean, there were things like that too. But yeah. Anything more to add to that, Tom?
No.
Yeah.
If you guys, I would say if anybody's new to Mormon podcasting and you haven't listened to a lot of Mormon expression, there are so many good episodes. No, they are.
Yeah, I think John's done some things. There are places if you look, like I've searched on Reddit. If you go to Reddit and you search on Mormon expression, there was some discussion thread once where somebody posted a link where all of the Mormon expression archives or episodes are archived somewhere else. So they're still out there. There's ways to get them, but it's just not as easily accessible anymore. But okay. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Richard. Everybody clap for Richard.
Yeah, Richard AB. Thank you. So, my favorite ones are where you recreate General Conference.
Yeah.
I think everybody would love those. And so, I would love to see you actually make the voices and impersonate. I know Glenn does some other people do some. So let's go ahead and hear you do a little recreation of General Conference.
I'll be cough track.
Yeah, Jake, why don't you start with Uchtdorf?
All right, I'll start with the opening exercise. Then we'll go to one from Monson, and then
Okay.
maybe from.
All right.
Lady speaker. I can do Holland.
The thing is, this isn't going to sound much like it because I actually manipulate it in the software itself. So it's not. Okay. My dear brothers and sisters, I'd like to welcome you today to another session of the Sunstone Symposium. This has been some riveting navel gazing that we have listened here today. A startling display of narcissism and self-centeredness, which will only continue as we pass it along to our beloved President Monson.
Thank you. President Uchtdorf, we have been blessed to hear from him. I would like to recite a hymn. As I have loved you, love almost everyone else. This new commandment, love and accept almost everyone else. As long as they're worthy of your love and acceptance and kindness, then you can love almost like I did. We thank thee, O God, for the prophet. It's good to be back in front of you in the world of the breathing. I don't know what else. There we go. Yeah. Is there?
I can try a little Holland.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do voices. It was the only one I've channeled. So for me, Holland, well, I'll try it. Brothers and sisters of Sunstone, you think you have knowledge, you think you're smart. I'm a pretty smart guy. I went to a good school. Real truth only comes from following the brethren. It's really just getting angry and regurgitate. That's all I got. Don't do voices. You're very kind. Oh, yeah. I thought we should have a duel of John DeLynn impressions between Heather and Glenn. They've both done it brilliantly on different episodes. Of course, the excommunication, the musical, was one with Glenn, but.
I'll do that, but I also want to hear Scott do Bob doing Oaks.
I can do that.
Yeah.
It's really bad. It's really
Go
bad.
ahead, Heather.
We are so blessed
No,
to
that's
be
not
together, brothers and sisters, at another wonderful Sunstone conference. I have been looking out at your smiling faces, and I just feel that I can sense the light of Christ in your eyes. I was at an earlier seminar today. It was about polygamy. Did you know that in polygamous relationships, there was the sex? It wasn't just for show. Those people were I don't even want to talk about it because we're getting into the area of the pornography. And I don't want any of you to get too excited, except by the idea of building Zion together. Thank you.
Sorry, Glenn, I do have one more, and it's just Seth Rogen. It's just my laugh. That's it. Yeah, it's just how I talk. So that's all I got.
I want to hear Bob doing Oaks.
Okay.
There are 3 types of Sunstone symposium presentations. The first of which are the boring kind, that are very dry and long, traditionally given without a presentation or anything to look at while you're listening.
All right.
I have one. I actually have a good John DeLynn one. Hello. Welcome to Sunstone Symposium. I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. That was the wrong one. I'm sorry, that was Bernie Sanders.
Do a little more of that. That's coming up.
That's coming up. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a John DeLynn.
This is when Carl the Casual Satanist meets Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Yes.
Carl, the Satanist community is very important to our revolution.
All right. Now someone's sorry they asked that question. Yeah.
See, we're not as funny as we think we are.
Question about your listenership. Where have you seen it go? And is there any correlation to what's going on in the bloggernacle at the time?
Well, yeah. In order to know if there's a correlation to what's going on in the bloggernacle, we have to really be aware of what's going on in the bloggernacle. And I think my experience, at least, I think several others have had this, that I get less and less involved and aware of everything else that's going on, which probably isn't a great thing. You know, it is very much the navel gazing. We know about us. Knowing about other people and what's going on, not as much. We're just not very aware. We will have listeners that will send us things and say, please do a smackdown on this, or please, talk about this here. And that brings things to our attention that otherwise I wouldn't know anything about. As far as the numbers go, I could pull up. I don't know if I'd be able to project it off of here. I'd have to do it off that
We're
one. But
close to the 3 million total download mark.
we've almost had 3 million total in the 4 years that we've been doing. But I think we have 2 very significant bumps in our listenership over the course of the 4 years. And the first was when we interviewed Tom Phillips, and that probably increased our listenership, 8 times or something. And then we were on Mormon Stories. John interviewed us maybe a year and a half ago, I think it was, and that gave us a big bump as well. And that bump has been sustained. We typically will have, within the first week that an episode is released, anywhere between 7,000 and 9,000 people that listen to it. And then after a month that it's been out, there might be 12 to 10,000. So that's where our listenership is. It hasn't been declining. It's kind of tapered off. It's not really growing like it used to. And I think what happens, we don't really know, but I think what happens is that there's a certain lifespan that people have and a tolerance that they have for listening to Mormon podcasts of any variety. And they get to a point where it just isn't scratching that itch for them anymore, and they move on to something else, and they just are living their lives. And so I think we see that cycle, and even people that we know very well that have listened to the podcast very regularly in the past, they've just moved on to other things. And but then there's new people that discover it, and they come in, and then eventually they'll go through. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing, but there's really no way that I know to measure that.
Yeah, just measuring just tracking the metric for that is difficult. There's really no great, John's nodding his head, there's no great tool out there for being able to say, we have this many people that listen to us. Yeah. So when you talk about a specific episode and a specific amount of time, how much can we generally count on that number, 10, 12, maybe 15,000 within a first month? That's kind of where our zone is. There's certainly been particular episodes where you can see clearly, this one's obviously getting shared, or this one's getting downloaded a lot more frequently because it's outside of the norm. But
just a quick question. I'm a big fan of also navel gazing about podcasting. But is there a reason you guys don't monetize the podcast? Like, I would love to hear you guys sell me Casper mattresses or stamps.com and something like that. Is there any reason why you don't do that?
Yeah.
There is.
Next question.
Tell the reason.
Oh, you want to know why? You want to know what that reason is? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think we've talked about it. We go round and round about it. We've had many conversations about it. I think it's not worth it. And it's not worth it because once you monetize something and you're trying to share something between 9 people, it ends up not being that much if you're splitting between 9 people. Then how do you divvy it up based on work and based on the time? And it becomes complicated when this many people are involved. And ultimately we're concerned, or I'm concerned, a lot of us are concerned, that it will impact relationships, it'll impact the podcast. It might affect if we start censoring ourselves or trying to deliver a product that will maximize money rather than just doing what we like, what we enjoy, what makes us laugh. Those are some of the reasons why, practical as well as personal.
But it's not that it's dead. We still talk about it from time to time. And
if
I don't know
anyone
if you
wants to give me money, that's fine.
We are selling
And Jake.
T-shirts.
Yeah, this is the first time we've ever done merchandise. So we have shirts, mugs, and shot glasses outside. So this is the first time we've actually tried to.
And what we're going to do with that money, we're still not sure. We know that there are hosting fees. Usually, we just cover those out of our own pocket, our own operating costs, and they're not a ton. But so we've thought, well, we'll have some money we could reimburse those of us that have put that expense into it. I like the idea of taking the money from this merchandise and doing more merchandise that are other kinds of things that could be fun, maybe doing some kind of a project that, I'll tell you, like my big grand idea for something that I'd love for us to do that I don't know that we ever will is to take a trip down to Guatemala or Mexico and join one of those Book of Mormon tours and, record what's going on as we're going through this, and maybe pose as believers, or something kind of fun like that would be. So maybe that's something that we could take some money and use it and still give back some kind of a product to listeners for. But I think Matt really summed it up. It's just it scares us all.
Well, and when we started as well, that was kind of one of the things that we said at the beginning is this isn't going to be about money.
Yeah.
So
I do need a new laptop, and that's not a comment on anybody else. I'm just saying I really do need a new laptop, but I'm not going to be asking for anybody for it.
The room's fine though. This is plenty big.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Plenty of space.
Charlie.
I want to speak for the silent majority. They might be a majority, but I'm over 70, and I'm technologically illiterate. It's too late. Computers don't like me, I don't like them. So now listen, I am a fan among fans. I mean, as soon as the November proclamation came out, I asked my husband, what did the infants say? I want to know. And he'd say, well, I'm too busy right now. Please download it. Well, I have to wait till Saturday. I got other downloads, good downloading. Yeah, well, you know what? I don't know how to download. I don't know what iTunes is or where it is. I can't log on and give you a review. I can't log on and record an outro or an intro. And I can't even write to you because I don't know how to find out your email address. And I've always wanted to say, don't take it so hard when you look at those figures. Because I may be waiting months to get 6 months worth of podcast.
Is that true,
And now
Gordon?
you think,
make
well,
her wait
nobody listened to us in March. That's because I finally got somebody to download them for me.
Thank you very much.
I just like to bear my testimony that you guys filled a huge need for me during my faith transition 1.5, 2 years ago. I'd gone through Mormon Stories podcast and done all the thoughtful faith stuff and all the gentle stuff. And
It just gets boring at some point,
I needed
right?
some hardcore shit in my life. And I'd never sworn up to that point or drank coffee or anything. And after I started listening to you guys, you empowered me to start swearing and to really branch out, become worldly in those little ways and stuff like that. I was a Relief Society.
It's a nice shirt you're rocking there. That's
Yeah.
right. Little tank top, yeah.
Yeah. We'll do an infant's design based on that next year.
Corn Shoulders
Yeah.
t-shirt, please.
Yeah, right.
That'd be awesome. But I just want to tell you guys I love you, and I think you do a great job. Huge fan. My kids are all fans. I love you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, and I just like to comment, you know, and we've talked, I think, on recent episodes within the last few months or so about burnout, and you know, that's a real thing. There are times where we get maybe tired of talking about Mormonism or tired of talking to each other, or you know, things like that. That doesn't really happen that much.
Or hearing Glenn. Yeah.
Or hearing me talk, yeah. But being able to come to Sunstone like this and interact with you, and it's such a different experience for me this year than it was last year, where I was so nervous about everything. But sitting at that booth and having people come up and share your stories with us, and today, it really is a nice payback. It's better than any kind of monetization for the podcast. So thank you for what you shared, and for all of you, really.
So that actually plays right into my question, which was, at some point in time, you'll burn out.
Yeah.
And some of you already have. First of all, you guys are genius. Your interaction with each other is worth. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's that sense of camaraderie that you have, and that kind of playful interaction that, frankly, I missed when you guys exited Mormon Expression. That was the best part of Mormon Expression, was that kind of like interaction. So my question is, for each of you, how long do you see yourselves doing this, going into the future? And while we're talking about time frames, do you think the church, how long do you see the church being kind of viable?
Jake, why don't you kick it off and we'll just go down.
We'll just go down the thing.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a cyclical element with, at least for me, there's kind of a cyclical element with my interest in, you know, how motivated I am to do Infants on Thrones and things like that, and, you know, come up with a new topic and organize the discussion and then edit the podcast. So, but I got a couple more years. I'm still spry. So, and I'm one of the later infants. So I have, you know, a few more years that I think I'd like to do that. And even if I run out of topics, like just getting on and talking, it's just a fun place. It's like if you could call, you know, 8 of your best friends every 2 weeks and just bullshit for, you know, a couple hours and then hang up, like, you know, why wouldn't you do that? So, but as for the church, I mean, I think the church has a long future. It may not look like what it looks like now, but I think that, you know, there are many generations to come of LDS Mormons.
Yeah, I'm also new and not burned out. So, yeah, I keep suggesting topics that people are like, oh, yeah, I think we covered that like 2.5 years ago, which is fine because you haven't covered it with me. So, can we? and a lot of people like me who've been listening for less than a year haven't heard it. So, we're going to cover the same kind of things again and again. And I will do this as long as I still love talking to these people, which shows no sign of flagging yet. So I guess when I'm old and gray. The church is funded for, another century or more. So it'll be around in some form for as long as any of us are here.
I got one. Thank you. My man doesn't work though. Oh, here it is. I'm in a little bit different place since I'm actively engaged in Latter-day Saint Tradition Church, Community of Christ. And so as a result of that, I'm not really getting burned out. So I left the LDS Church in 1988. And but I'm continuously engaged in this topic of our shared heritage, and coming out to Sunstone is just, I've been doing this for about a dozen years, and it's just amazing every single time. So I will probably continue as long as there are infants to keep on talking to, because I just enjoy this so much. I love the conversations. I love all of these guys. And so anyway, so that'll probably continue as long as we're doing it. Regarding the LDS Church, everyone's already talked about institutionally and monetarily. There's no reason to foresee any ending. I think where the LDS Church is at is that it's already achieved the point where in North America, in the Heritage Church, the part of the church that actually pays tithing, really, that part is already achieved. Stasis is no longer in a growth mode, so it is already begun irreversible decline. But the situation is there's still a demographic change as the bubble's going through. So actually, they're not to peak revenue yet. So even if you don't have young people, the people are in an age earning thing. So there's still 25 years more of making more money, even if there's no young people that are filling the ranks. And same thing with political power. So that'll be we'll see a very large still peak, but in the meantime. Inevitable demographic decline has already started, and it will never turn around.
Which is what I was going to say.
Well, as for me, I think I've actually been burned out for a while. I keep getting pulled back in because I love these guys and girl. I really do. And just like what Jake said, I don't want to miss an opportunity to have some really amazing conversations with some really good friends. That's really what keeps me connected. And I want to take a minute to call out Sage Turk. Sage is doing a project. Yes. Sage is doing a project with us that's coming up in the next few months. So wait for that or listen for that. So anyway, I've been burnt out for a while, honestly. And if it wasn't for these guys being so awesome, I would have walked away a while ago. So that's where I'm at. And as far as the church goes, I think if they continue to plant their flag against the LGBT community, it's going to continue to hurt them. That's bad. That's just a bad move. And I feel bad that they have to take that stance because they're going to be behind with everything, So anyway.
Related to the church, what I'm learning the further and further I get out is the less relevant they are in the real world. And I know that's probably difficult to conceive of here in Utah because they have immense influence. And I'm in Mesa, Arizona, and they have influence there as well. But the further I get out, the more I realize they're really small. And so they're going to lose numbers. They're going to continue to lose numbers, but percentage-wise, they're still going to have about the same influence as they do now. I'm hopeful it will have less impact and cause less trauma to people, and more people will find real happiness outside of its influence. But it'll be around forever, for whatever forever means for me. As Heather said, centuries certainly. I hope to be doing something related to infants for a long time. I was ready to stop a few months ago because I wanted to disassociate even more from Mormonism and see what it was like to interact with the world as a non-Mormon, not as an ex-Mormon. And that was important to me and important to me for my family. but something happens, or I guess I should say, something happens and I get worked up, and this is something that I want to talk about. And November certainly did that. As a proud father of a proud gay son, I will continue to fight against this institution, who is an enemy to people I love. And these 8 people just make me laugh. And I love listening to them, and I love learning from them, and I love adjusting my opinions and position based on their insightful and thoughtful and very strong thinking ways. That was a 3 pattern, I think, but said the same thing 3 times. But right, that was intentional, yeah. But Bob and Scott and Heather and Jake and Tom and John and Randy are 8 of my best friends, and I hope they consider me their friend. And so as long as I can talk to them about those things, I want to do it. And I'm really excited for what Sage is doing, because it was something that I've been thinking about doing, something not necessarily tied to Mormonism, but some other topics. And as we get in different personalities and perspectives that inject life into it, it motivates me. In talking to people that have come by, saying very nice things, it energizes me and re-energizes me. And be honest, I'm really have a huge ego and like that to be fed. I feel like I need people must hear my voice, and this is a platform for that. So don't mistake what we do as not being self-serving and filling our egos. So thank you for indulging us with that.
So I think I'm probably most similar to Tom in terms of the burnout. The last 6 months, just Mormonism in general has become a lot less relevant to me. I still definitely, when something comes up, it grabs my attention, but just over time, it's hard to kind of maintain that same enthusiasm about something that you've worked really hard to walk away from. In Mesa, Arizona, where I live, we started this community that we're calling Nautilus, that's essentially a home for mostly ex-Mormons at this point, that we're trying to build a community on something that's a little bit more of a positive identity. So I've been focusing some of my time recently on that, and had other projects going on. We Goose. Yeah, we. And Matt's been very involved. John Hamer's been very supportive and involved with it as well, and lots of other people too. It's not like I'm doing it, but it's just somewhere that I've been putting my time instead of podcasting. But
and Scott's wife.
And my wife, Lonica, who walked out earlier. That's fine. But she's like, there's something else I want to go to. I'm like, go for it. So on the topic of the church, the way I always think of this is like a comet, okay? Comets are really big, but you don't see the comet. What you see all the time is the tail from the comet. You're seeing all the stuff that gets blown off of it and burns up, right, when it comes in contact with something else, okay? So you're going to see that for a long time, and it's probably going to get brighter. I think the church's problems are going to get bigger, and they're going to be more apparent, and it's going to be more in everyone's face. I don't think that's going away. But the church itself has so much inertia and mass to it that they can destroy people for the next 100 years, and they're going to be fine. So that's a happy note to pass it on to Glenn. Yeah.
So you're saying they have all the resources to continue to impact people's lives negatively?
Yeah, they don't have. I mean, like what was said earlier about the demographic is absolutely true. What John said, they don't have a reason to change their position, because if they change their position, they're not appealing to more people. They're not going to start converting people to the church in much greater numbers if they change a policy on something, but they will alienate their base. And so at this point, I think they're really motivated by trying to keep things insular and trying to be able to maintain that kind of control over people's media, over what they do with their lives, over life choices, going on a mission, that sort of a thing. I think that's what we're seeing.
For me, about a year ago, I started a side project called Early Mormon Audio that was actually was actually an idea from John Larson back in the Mormon Expression days. That the way that he envisioned it was that different listeners would sign up to read part of this public domain books and narratives from the Mormon history and build a virtual library for it, which I always thought was a really great idea, but was a really hard thing to organize. So nothing had come of it in years that I was aware of. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do it because I'm enjoying what I'm doing with Infants on Thrones. I'll do Early Mormon Audio, and went pretty well for about 4 months, and I burned out of that really, really fast because it's just me sitting there reading a book and then editing, and it's so tedious, the cutting to try and make that smooth. I still want to get back into that and do that more, but Infants on Thrones, there's times where I might get a little bit burned out about it, but that's usually because there's some discord with our relationship, with our friendship. And Heather made the mention earlier that the thing that really was her worst experience, she wasn't going to talk about. I have to take a lot of the blame for that, what happened, but I do, but it really impacted me, and it made getting on and doing this harder until we were able to resolve that and get back to normal. So those are the kinds of things. It really is about us being friends, enjoying each other, enjoying talking with each other, and that, I think that's what is the appeal to you can feel that. You can tell that that's there and that's real. And I hope that continues. And I haven't met Sage in person yet, so I'm glad to see you here. But I've loved what Sage has done in coming in and saying, hey, I want to interview these people back in November at the mass resignation. Would you guys want to publish it? And that's fantastic. So just taking the initiative, going out and doing it, and for Infants on Thrones to say, we'll be a place where you can publish things like that. And you keep doing it, and you play your cards right, Sage. You
could be just as irrelevant as we are, my friend.
Yeah, right.
You could also think you're as funny, but not really as we do.
Right. But so for the future of Infants on Thrones, when people say, "Do you see yourself going on for 10 years or doing that?" Like, I don't know if I would be, but I'd be really happy if Infants on Thrones still was. Like Saturday Night Live's in its 50th year or something, but it's a new cast all the time. And if we're just evolving, and still a group of friends, and that would be fantastic. So. And again, to the question about my entrance into Mormon Expression, it was my enthusiasm and drive that made that happen, and then John's being accommodating to it. So I think for us, we'd like to continue to have that, to be a welcome place where listeners can do listener essays, and we'll publish those and try to do a better job than we have recently with it. But so I'd love to see that continue. And as far as the church is concerned, I don't take quite the negative. Like, I don't see the church as being so diabolical as maybe they have expressed here. Not to dismiss any of that, but I think that the church still serves such a valuable function for so many people in their lives. And it's not just people who were born into the church. It's not just people who it's a legacy thing, and there's so much social pressure they want to leave, but they can't. Those people are obviously there, but I think that there really is a real, legitimate value that the church has in people's lives, and people are converted to it, and there's something in the message that really speaks to them, and I think that'll continue. And that the church will probably change, and it's changed already. I mean, we can look at the history of the church, how many different iterations of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints there are. I think that'll continue. And hopefully they'll succumb to social pressure and be less damaging and evil than sometimes they are, but I think there's still a lot of value, and it'll continue for a while.
I'd love to see Infants on Thrones be a place where listeners or creative people could say, I'd like to do a little mini-series, I'd like to do an episode or two, I'd like to put out some content, but I don't want to build my own website, build a podcast that's going to go on forever. But I think there's something that can be said, something that's creative and clever, and we've had that with some of the songs that people have submitted and episodes. So I think a lot of people think, well, this is just there's no entry to this, and that's not true. It does require some effort on that person's part, and to initiate it, we're really probably not going to handhold or do it on our own. But if somebody says, "Wow, I really have a voice and I want to do this," pitch it. And I think we'd like to be the place where that type of content can come out. We can be the voice for, or help be the voice for you all and listeners and other people that have something to say.
I want to say, first of all, Matt, you're objectively attractive. That's not what I meant. You know that. As far as like the infant drama that happens, that's inevitable in a group with 9 people, and they're very strong personalities. We're going to have our moments where we're like the Real Housewives of infants on thrones, and that was true before I entered the picture. A couple of the guys would be like, "Are you sure you realize there's going to be a lot of drama, right?" And even just like them bringing me onto the podcast, my husband was like, "These people are more drama than 8 drag queens at a wig sale."
I was going to ask you to share that if you didn't anyway.
We really blame Bob, though.
Yeah.
Just because he's not here. But
Yes. But it's also like, it would be like the Real Housewives who really love each other and who really care about each other, and a bunch of drama queens who are invested in each other's lives. And I mean, when I was hospitalized this year with like a throat infection, all of the guys were like texting me and sending me flowers, and these are people, most of whom I'd never met before, and who care about me. And I'm sure we're praying for me for my swift recovery, right? And would have given me a blessing if they were there, but yeah, it doesn't matter how much drama there is, because there's always love underneath.
Thank you. So is it Alan? So thank you for waiting for as long as you have. I know you've got a comment there.
Actually, 2 quick things. First, don't disparage old guys with gray hair. I used to do that until one day I got up and really seriously looked in the mirror. That was an unpleasant awakening. Secondly, I can tell I've been listening to the wrong kinds of podcasts. The last 2 I listened to were on the geology of the Snake River Valley and on the chemistry of fireworks.
Wow. That one sounds great.
Anyway, for those of us who are infants, virgins, so to speak, could you recommend a few episodes that I ought to listen to as I get into listening?
Okay.
Let's start just then.
Well, boy, I don't know. Our most popular episode is John DeLynne's Excommunication, the musical, which we put together. One of my favorites was the Disney songs for children of gay parents. That, we had the idea, we churned out this, we put that out pretty quickly. I think there was a lot of inspiration and frustration and love and everything that went into that episode. Little Factories, where we reviewed the Boyd K. Packer talk, is one of my favorite ones. But there's a lot. I really liked the John DeLynne, the Reluctant Atheist, that we did recently. That was like a revitalizing discussion for me in a lot of ways. It was just so much fun, and I think we went on so many interesting tangents that I enjoyed. So what about you guys? Well, we're in the process of reworking our website. We're probably how long away, Heather? Do you think?
Next week.
Yeah. So we're
I've been next week for a long time.
so we're probably about 2 months away from our website being. That's not a reflection on Heather, but or the guys that are working on the website. It's taking a while, but we'll have lists. It'll be more organized than our current website and easier to find things like that. So.
We did a 3-part episode called Who Wrote the Book of Mormon?
Yeah.
And each part can be listened to individually, or you can listen to the whole thing collectively. And that's one of the one of the products that I'm most proud of, that I was involved with a part of that. The Elder Pullman one, still a favorite.
They're like some of the because of the Mormon expression things that we did that are no longer available. We've done a few, like republishing them through Infants on Thrones. I don't think we're going to do much more of that than we've already done, but that's one of those, the Pullman one. So, what's that? Schoolhouse Rock, those are really small. So sometimes we'll do mini-sodes that are maybe, 5 to 20 minutes long. Infant Sing, things like that we do, What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll be quick.
Yeah, okay.
I would love a refresher on kind of where you stand with the church as an institution. I have a hard time telling some of you guys apart and your voices. Heather, you're easy to pick out. But I'm curious, if the church has left you alone, what your thoughts are on why? Because I think about someone like John DeLynn, and I don't give a shit about the church in a lot of ways, and they've left me completely alone.
Right.
And I'd be curious why someone that wanted to stay so badly was.
Well, I think that's it. I think you just answered the question right there.
So I would love a quick refresher.
Well, number one, John's more relevant than we are. He just is.
Yeah.
Number two,
he has more influence over people that are in the church.
He has more influence
than we
over
do.
people, and he was in group. He was, look, I'm doing my best. I'm asking questions, these types of things. And as a result, he had more influence. And as a result, he was more dangerous to the church because he was impacting things. We're telling you. Right? That's what we think. And this is where we're at, most of us, and we're going to tell you that. So we have put ourselves out group, so they don't need to come after us because we've done it to ourselves. And all them coming after us would only give us more credibility, would cause people to look at us more, and that's what I think. They have gained nothing from going after us. They gain everything from going after John and Jeremy and anyone else who maintains some connection to and attraction to believers. If we were attracting believers, I think they would come after us.
And I doubt that there's like a group in Salt Lake that are sitting around a table going, "What should we do about infants on thrones?" I mean, I don't think that these things that you're articulating are even in the consciousness of anybody in the church that would, and nothing at the local level is happening to, maybe Tom's got some different experience with that.
I resigned last year, and I was I resigned last year, and I talked to my bishop about it, and I said, I've got this podcast, Infants on Thrones, and he's just like, it's not like he's like, oh, I'm very aware. They didn't know, they didn't care.
Tom, what was your comment? I stole it from you.
Oh, I think it'd be kind of cool if there was actually a group of people that were actually talking about us inside the church. I was like, that'd be really cool. We could do a skit on that. That'd be fun.
The only other thing I was going to add is that if somebody just tunes into a random episode and listens to a minute or two of us talking, you can tell right away that we're not believers, right? So that's why we're not a threat, is because we alienate people so quickly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We gotta wrap up. But they still might.
And I opposed at General Conference, and they didn't do anything.
Go
either,
quick.
so.
We're gonna get played off.
Okay. Well, I think you underestimate yourself. I'm sure there's some little group in the church that's worried about you guys. And I do think the church institutionally is diabolical, so you're being very generous, Glenn. I just wanted to say thank you for those of us that are in the hinterlands that don't live in anywhere near Mormons or ex-Mormons. It's really helpful to us to be able to listen to people that have had our experience. And each of you I like individually for your own reasons, but it was very nice to have Heather join the podcast. I work in a male-dominated industry, so it was kind of like when I started listening, I've experienced this my whole life. So.
In true fashion, we had one, and we've now got equality, right? That's kind of our...
It's kind of the Mormon way, that's right. So I liked the PPI podcasts, and so I'd like to see you guys finish those out because I think we're all probably interested in your own individual stories.
Okay.
And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, everybody.